Hey Cleveland, this is Anderson Varejão of the Cleveland Cavaliers. You are listening to the Sports Fix.
You are the voice of the Sports Fix. So pick up your phone now and call 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
There we go. Takes me a minute sometimes to get there, putting those feeds out, last couple of tweets and posts before we get up and running, and that is exactly what we're doing now. Off and running with today's edition of the Sports Fix. Welcoming you guys across the spam in the chat room. I'm looking in the chat room over here. First comment that I see pops up, man. So I don't know. You guys sort out the chat room. I'll handle this end of things here. Welcoming you guys across the Sports Fix radio network, wherever you're at, listening to the show. As we get things rolling here, J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, the Big Daddy on the microphone. Call me what you will. I'm glad to be here doing what we do each and every weekday at noon. As I said, across that Sports Fix radio network, maybe you're enjoying the show live on TuneIn and TuneIn's radio apps worldwide on all of the different devices. Perhaps you're listening on Spreaker and Mixler and their mobile apps on the home base for the Sports Fix, thesportsfix.net. 24/7 one-stop shop, baby, for your Cleveland sports and sports fix. And see, sports and sports fix, put it all together, thesportsfix.net. Bookmark it today as well. Welcome in all of you joining us on digital delay, 24/7, thousands around the world in different time zones, zip codes, and countries all over on places like iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, on iTunes, downloading us and subscribing there, on Stitcher and CarPlay and all of their different features, SoundCloud, all the places that you guys enjoy the Sports Fix or get your fix, as we say. Thank you so much for doing it, guys. You are the voice of the Sports Fix. I tell you that every day. Do your thing. Be the voice. Let me hear where you're at. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. Can't do the phone thing. Facebook and Twitter's where it's at. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfixCLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com today. You know, before I even get rolling with the show, just a couple of seconds, I just want to give a shout out to somebody who's not here listening, but he's listening. He's listening every day. Kevin Welsh, one of the founders of this show that you're listening to. Before me, there was a Sports Fix, and Kevin was one of the cats that put it together. He is no longer with us. I mean, just talk about a tragedy. Young is not even the word. Young life sniffed out just like that a couple of years ago. But today would be Kevin's birthday. Today is Kevin's birthday. And I just want to give a shout out to him. And as I said, he's watching, listening to the show every day. But one of the guys that made this thing happen, predecessor to me before that even happened. And I want to just make a little mention of that, because without Kevin, without Victor Cortez, without those two, hey, this isn't happening. I mean, maybe I'm on the air, but it's not the Sports Fix, and it probably doesn't go the way that it went. So definitely something I just wanted to mention. Get rolling here with the show. So you know what? before I get deep into the Cavs with a good victory last night, wrapping up the end of the first half, you got Chicago coming up tonight. Eddy Jansen, actually, from More Than a Fan Cleveland, he'll be with us here just a few moments from now. We'll join him. We'll talk about the Cavs, the victory, Kevin Love, update his injury, and all of those things. Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. Mike will be with us here later on in the first hour as well, as we're right on the verge, on the cusp of Indian spring training. Speaking of Indian spring training, by the way, next week, couple of cool things for you guys next week as we bridge that gap and maybe, do a little giving some things away, warming things up in the winter time, you guys. And hey, no, Charles, nothing starting on a down note, man. I mean, life is what it is, man. People pass at all times. I just wanted to start the show and give a shout out to my boy Kevin. I wasn't saying it all sad. I mean, trust me, it hurts, but it is, it is what it is. I just wanted to mention it. So I'm not trying to start that. Like you said, what if I wanted to start off there? I'd start off talking about the Browns. Although I do have some things to say about the Browns in the opening segment. That's a different kind of down note there. But anyways, there you go. Let's just throw me all off of everything here. But circling back here as we get rolling with the show. Yeah, go ahead and laugh because you just completely sent me off on a completely different place there. Although I really am going to talk about Jimmy Haslam here in just a second. But we'll talk Cavaliers hoops here in a moment with Eddy Jansen. Yesterday, as we were going off the air, actually, right as we went off the air yesterday, we got a hit. Dan Wismar, my man from the Cleveland Fan, sent me a little blurb yesterday, and he had gotten a note from a birdie that he said is a pretty reliable person. And yeah, Charles, I teased a giveaway. I teased two of them, actually. I'll get back to that here in just a moment. But see, that's what you get. You take me off my train of thought, you move me into a different direction, and then I stop giving stuff away. So, there it is. Now you get nothing. You get nothing, and you like it. Back to what I was saying. Yesterday, Dan Wismar hit me up, and he had been told from somebody that he said is usually pretty on with the stuff that he tells him, Tiger Woods announcing his retirement and his engagement to Lindsey Vonn. And, well, close, but no cigar. He did have an announcement, and it did have to do with him stepping away, but it was a leave of absence, not a retirement. And so apparently lost in the translation there. But for what it's worth, I mean, I was just passing along the message. But, two careers is what you're looking at when you're talking about Tiger Woods. I mean, it's been since 2008-ish, it's been all downhill. And I'm a big Tiger Woods guy. Always loved Tiger. He was coming up as I was coming up. So I've kind of been right along the life track with his career. He's one of those guys that's in my era, and I've always been a big Tiger Woods guy. I thought the second half was, and I'm one of them guys that stuck with it, said, man, no, Tiger's going to get himself straight and come back. Nobody can be that great. And then look, he rebuilt himself. Man, the injuries though, one after another. I mean, and some serious ones, back surgeries, knee surgeries, Achilles. I mean, he's had elbows and everything, man. And you know what? And I hate to be this guy, and I'm a fan of Tiger Woods' game, but, the second half of the career breakdown, and you look at the timing of his... I'm just saying, there was a lot of pressure on Tiger Woods to become Tiger Woods from all different sources, from within his family, from within himself, from within the community. There were racial ramifications, there were social ramifications. There was a lot of push for Tiger Woods to become what Tiger Woods became. And all I'm going to say is that sometimes people make choices that they make to help continue those things or improve those situations, and then they deal with the consequences on the back end. And there is not a single thing tying Tiger Woods to anything. Oh, there was the stuff with the doctor up north and a little bit of some thought there. But, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and impugn a guy's whole career and say I think this, think that, but I do have very big suspicions on why the breakdown of Tiger Woods physically has been so pronounced in the second half of his career. And, I mean, again, could just be what it is, but he was a physical specimen for so long, and a lot of times, well, whatever. We'll see what happens, but it is a tale of two careers, and golf's in trouble. Golf is in big trouble when that day does come, whether it's 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, 2 years from now. That they are not ready for that, because that was a phenomenon that raised the game to a different level. And no disrespect to the other guys, I love the game of golf, but it's not going to be anywhere near that level again. The big boat raises all boats, you know what I mean? As the old expression goes, he's the big boat that makes all boats float higher in the water. But I still think, man, that it would be interesting to know the truths behind the reasons why his body betrayed him, especially when he was such a physical specimen. And like I said, not trying to cast aspersions, but he came up in an era where performance-enhancing stuff was big. That's the steroid era of sports and baseball and all of that. And I'm not sitting here saying I know anything more than the average person, but again, when we talk about guys, you can point to a lot of guys and point to certain timings of when their body just completely went south. People made the same statements about guys like Travis Hafner, thinking of it from a local level here in Cleveland, and even a Grady Sizemore, although at a different level than they do about Hafner. Grady just kept running into fences and walls and playing too hard, if there's such a thing. But, again, maybe Tiger Woods' body just completely betrayed him. But, man, for such an incredible specimen to just have one thing after another, and then the personal things too. And, hey, this is the downside that comes with some of your personal transgressions that you've been admittedly involved with when it came to your infidelities. I'm just saying, it's not exactly like he's got a reputation above reproach like he had at one point, where you could go, how dare you? How dare you even think that? Because, I get that. Some people, you don't even make insinuations or cast aspersions, but when you realize that a guy could live two lives, and this is not, hey, look, we all have things like that. I'm not piling on Tiger, but when you know that can happen, then it's not as implausible to go, well, maybe he was, like I said, there's pressure. There was all that pressure to become Tiger Woods and to live up and then exceed all those expectations and all that stuff. Think of the rock star phenomenon that he was for so long when he first started. So, I'm just saying, it's not like you go, well, he would never, because there's a lot of things that have changed about your thoughts. People are human, and sometimes pressure makes people do things that they wish they wouldn't have, but then maybe they wish they would. Hey, Lance Armstrong said, hell, I'd have done it again. So maybe Tiger would too. Maybe Tiger hasn't done anything. I'm not going there. I'm just saying, watching, what is it, 7 years now of him being broke down? One serious injury after another. That's something there. Anyway, so keep moving. Jimmy had giveaway. Yeah, you want me to talk about that giveaway? I'll do it here at the end of this. I'm going to keep rolling with the opening segment. We've got Eddy Jansen coming on in just a little bit. I'm not going to go long talking about the Browns, as I was joking with Charles in the chat room there. By the way, you guys, you always hear me talk about the chat room. It's over there on Mixler, Mixler.com, Mixlr. It's just a cool little ancillary place to, you can listen to the show there and chat, or you could just access the chat room, listen to the show on whatever, tune in, Spreaker, wherever else you're listening to it. But Mixler.com is where I'm at when I'm always referring to what guys are saying over there in the chat room. But Jimmy Haslam, what did you want him to say? It's like I said about Kevin Love yesterday. What did you want him to say? You want him to come out there and say, there's dysfunction? And come on, of course not, man. But I'm sorry. I got to say this, and you guys know I'm a big Browns fan. Jimmy Haslam, to me, just in general, makes it hard for me to root for the Cleveland Browns. There's just something about him that gets me, man, and I don't know. It's because I feel that he's being disingenuous. That's a great word. All the time when he speaks to you. And that's not like he walked on the scene and I said, hey, look at this billionaire who does nothing but look you in the eye and smile while he's being completely untruthful, but he has kind of done it to himself since he's been here. And I listen to him now and I listen to him spin, and then you listen and you go, whatever, man. Like, I'm not buying a word of this. It's cool. That doesn't mean you can't listen. The Browns, my favorite Browns era that I grew up on was those 80s teams. It's not like Art Modell wasn't a bad owner. He just had a good team. Like, he was still a bad businessman. He was making the decisions while we were watching the Browns win in the late 80s. Art Modell financially was laying the groundwork for the team to fall apart. So think about that. Like, that doesn't mean that it messes with what you do it does with the Browns since 99, but that all I'm saying is, just because I'm saying that about Haslam, hey, the Browns can turn things around and you still may go, boy, look how many people don't like Jerry Jones. The Cowboys could win the Super Bowl. There's going to be people that say Jerry Jones is just a horrible, rotten human being, bad owner, so on and so forth, and all of that stuff. So, getting back to Jimmy Haslam, just listening to him, went back, listened to some of the audio, and read the transcripts. Terry Pluto sat down with him, and it's so disingenuous is the word that keeps coming back to me, because it's just total con man schlock. And that doesn't mean that the Browns can't have a good draft, sign a few free agents, and so on and so forth, but it just, he sold the Manziel dream. Of course he is, man. It's no big deal for the executives to be in the fill room. He explained why that was no big deal. He basically explained why everything was overblown. Nothing was a big deal, and none of these things were happening. I love it. Of course, Ray Farmer is deeply sorry for sending the text messages that Jimmy Haslam sent. I'm just kidding, but I truly do believe that he may be falling on his sword for, much like, as LG pointed out, those 9 Pilot Flying J executives who also fell on a well-paid sword for Mr. Haslam. But regardless, Ray Farmer feels terrible about what happened, and it's no big deal for the executives to be in the film room because he wants more smart people around him. So, and it's not a big deal for these things. Everybody gets along. It's all overblown, and he can't really tell you what the text messages were. He just knows that they were a mistake, and he can't really tell you why Kyle Shanahan wanted to leave, but, he's really happy to have the next guy here. And he can't really tell you why Brian Hoyer said the things that he did, and maybe we'll bring Brian Hoyer back, but we're looking at a bunch of other quarterbacks too. And, hey, don't forget, we haven't given up on Johnny Manziel. We would be foolish to do that. And did I tell you that Ray Farmer's going to be here and he's got nothing to worry about? We've got nothing to worry about here, nothing to see. I know everybody says things are bad, but guys, they're not, and you'll just have to believe me. I know you won't believe it until you see it, guys, but I promise you, there's nothing wrong here. Okay, come on, guys. Like, not everything is wrong. Like, obviously, Dan Wismar and I talk about it all the time. Some of this stuff is overblown, and it is being done to make certain people look bad because there's an agenda to be worked, but not all of it. But Jimmy Haslam, I'm telling you, he's that guy on South Park, the cop. Nothing to see here. Move along, people. Move along. Nothing to see here. That's what the Browns love to do, man. No, that's smoke coming from behind me. That's smoke signals. We're trying to get the Wahoo people to pay attention. We just want to do some stuff with the Indians. That's not a fire. That's not a fire behind us. By the way, hey, you got a fire extinguisher I could use? I mean, just in case. I need one next week. I don't need one today or anything. It's just disingenuous. But I laugh. at it because that's Jimmy being Jimmy. That's how Jimmy Haslam became a billionaire. That's what you do. And I know it's not, this probably won't come across when I say I can respect that. I don't respect being, shady, but I do respect the hustle. I understand what level of hustle it takes to get to that level of financial. Well, it's old money too, but I get the level of hustle to swim with the sharks at the top of the corporate level and in billionaire circles and all that stuff. He's got great survival instincts, man, and he survived another one here in this one. But come on, I mean, he said, "Oh no, nothing to see here. Move along." You got to laugh at that, man. I mean, again, doesn't change the fact that the Browns can do. He brought up some good points. Same thing that I said about the draft. Everybody points at the first round because you got the the you know who, and you got Gilbert as well. But all the rest of the draft, not bad. Undrafted guys, not bad at all. So, hey, let's see what happens another year. You can have a good draft. Absolutely. You know why? Because there's not another Johnny Manziel in this draft. So at least, hey, you want to look for a bright side? The Browns absolutely cannot draft Johnny Manziel this year. I mean, the other side is that he's still on the roster. But at least they won't draft him this year. I don't know. But they can. They can nail the draft. They can do well in the draft. They can still continue to move forward. I'll tell you, the best suggestion I've heard this week, and I can't remember which guy it was over at the Plain Dealer that wrote it. I can't remember if it was Terry Pluto, Bud Shaw. I don't know which one it was. But the best suggestion I read all week, and it would be the best thing the Browns could do, is to give more, and I don't mean organizational control, but give much more football say-so to Mike Pettin and everybody else. Take an extra step back. I'm not saying let him run everything, but he's the one level. Who's the one guy who nothing has been said about in all of this controversy, all of these stories? The one rock, the one guy who has been somehow in the midst of all this stupidness, he's still standing tall. He's doing his thing. That's Mike Pettin. He's kept an air of respectability. He's not one time has he been mentioned breaking rules, breaking laws, anything, any of these things that have happened. For that reason alone, I believe that there's your rock. If you're smart, everybody hides like roaches. The lights are on. Go hide and get out of the heat. Let Mike Pettin be the rock. Leave him. Let him take the blows. Let him make the calls. Don't just make him a puppet guy. Don't just have him taking the blows for your decisions, because then he's dead. But if you give him just a little more sway, he seems to have the most level-headed approach of everybody. So I thought that was the best suggestion I heard all week for the Browns, man. And with that, I'm done speaking about the Cleveland Browns, because I'd like to talk some Cavaliers. Cavs last night took care of some business. Kevin Love got hurt there, a little scary situation. We'll talk about it. They've only got one more before we end what they call the first half of the season, even though it's really more like the first 2/3, as we've said before. You've got the big All-Star break coming up, but first, you got a battle for the first place of the division here. Somebody, Jonathan Knight was joking about the prestigious divisions in basketball last week, but somebody's going into the break, first place in the Central. Cavs can do it if they win here tonight. We'll look ahead to that, talk about last night's game, look back at the first half of the season here as we're done. Now when we come out, it'll be a different outlook at the final third of the season. Eddy Jansen, Cavaliers beat writer for More Than a Fan Cleveland, joins us next after the break. We'll talk Cavs, talk about the victory over the Heat, the difference between Christmas Day and now, and the journey that the team has taken in that, 6-7 weeks or whatever. Pretty stark as well. A lot of reasons, too. We know they overhauled the roster. We'll talk about all of that, look ahead to the All-Star break, and more with Eddy Jansen from More Than a Fan Cleveland coming up next. Talking Cavs here on The Fix.
A public service announcement from the Sports Fix. We here at the Sports Fix and our affiliates would like to apologize for any disturbing verbal actions, but remember, it's better having them trapped in a box than loose on the streets. Public service announcement from the Sports Fix. The Sports Fix, the sports show that cares.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Hey, Sports Fix fans, I'm Fred McLeod, TV voice of the Cavaliers. When I'm not busy taking elbows from my buddy Austin Carr, I'm tuning in to see what the guys are saying. Come on, Cavs!
I'm Little Teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com. Have you gotten your copy of Cleveland's Finest yet? Highlighting the best moments, players, and media members in Cleveland sports history?
He won it! Milo hit a three-pointer on the sideline!
In-depth personal interviews with some of the top names in Cleveland sports fill the pages of this incredible book. Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee is this year's must-have book for every Cleveland sports fan. Available now at Amazon.com. Get your copy today.
You're listening to The Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix live here across the Sports Fix Radio Network. J-Rocc back with you, getting ready to be joined by Eddy Jansen from More Than a Fan Cleveland, Cavaliers beat writer, talking some Cavs hoops after a victory last night. They've got one more game left before the All-Star break, and you know what? While we're talking Cavs, by the way, phone line's not open. You guys, though, keep the conversation going. Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix, CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Before we go and talk Cavaliers here with Eddy Jansen, I'll go back to the first segment. You know what? I'm only going to let one. I'll only let one out of the bag right now. I was going to tell you guys about some giveaways. I was going to hook some people up and give some stuff away. And, you know, Charles had to mess that up for everybody. So we're going to give it a second chance here, you guys. I'll do one of them now. I'll tell you about another one perhaps later on in the show. But next week, matter of fact, a week from today, right around this time, next Thursday, Vince McKee, the author, joins us here talking about his latest book. This one here about the career, not just the return, but the entire career scope of LeBron James, his time here in Akron, in Cleveland, in Miami. I told him, I said, man, I'm not trying to read that, man. I said, I know what he did in Miami. I don't need to relive it. And you say, well, as an author, it was the best part of the book. I said, well, good for you, Vince. But anyways, it is a good book, and we're not only going to have Vince here on the show, but we're going to hook you guys up with a copy. You'll get to beat the box office, as they say, or beat the bookstore, or whatever the terminology would be there. But we're going to give you a chance to win a copy for yourself when Vince joins us, talking Cavs, talking LeBron James and his new book here next Thursday. So that's one of the giveaways next week. The other one, well, maybe I'll decide to tell you later. To be honest with you, I haven't worked out all the details yet anyway, so I should probably just sit tight on that. But see, Charles, quiet, and I'll tell you sooner. Now you had to wait on that one. But going back to it, Eddy Jansen, More Than a Fan Cleveland, talking Cavs with us here, and a good day to do that as we're wrapping up the first half of the season. Eddy, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, Jerry. Thanks, as always, for having me once again.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. And we're kind of a good timing here as we're going to kind of put a little bow on the first half of the season as the Cavs have just one more game remaining here last night. Thought last night it's a good one here because you had Miami and you could really just look back Christmas Day would be when they played the first time, and we know all of the issues around that. Just everything that was, at the time, wrong with the Cavaliers was highlighted during that week and that time at Christmas. It was right before LeBron took his time off. It was the roster had not been readjusted, none of these trades. Everything changed, obviously, between Christmas Day and now. There was the talk of LeBron. And by the way, now they pull their shirts over their face when they talk because they know that somebody's lip reading everything that they say to each other out there on the court. I don't know if you saw that, but all of those things were really highlighted back on Christmas Day, and then highlighted even more the difference in the Cavs last night between then and now.
Yeah, and the difference is amazing, Jerry. Even from Christmas Day, not even 2 months ago, just the difference that the Cavaliers have been playing with, looking for a defensive identity and finally having found it. With the acquisition of Mozgov, and also J.R. Smith has been a bit of a surprise on the defensive end of the floor. Had 5 steals in a game a couple of days ago. And on the opposite end for Miami, I mean, I understand the obvious reasons for why the game was put on national TV, but, if I'm an average fan watching that game, I probably lost interest in it at about halftime because it just wasn't a game. I mean, Miami just does not match up well with a team like Cleveland anymore, especially with Dwayne Wade out. Only 1 rebound for their best player, and Chris Bosh. They're really asking him to do just about everything. It's not really a rivalry anymore. It's got that just basketball feeling, and Eric Spoelstra more or less confirmed it last night. David Blatt more or less confirmed it last night, and you're pretty sure that LeBron James has moved on fully from that chapter of his life, and it is showing on the court because the Cavaliers are playing a new brand of basketball. That's a winning brand of basketball. It's got them 33 wins already this year, which will tie the total to the total wins from a season ago that they had.
Think about that, guys. They've won as many games as of today as they did in the entire 82-game slate that they had last season. So there you go, man. And I'm with you. I said yesterday when I was looking ahead at the game that the first one, and I didn't even think it had all that much, but they built a whole thing out of the return of LeBron to Miami and got a little mileage out of that, but it was totally different than the reverse scenario 4 years ago. There would be no vitriol. There would be no hostility because he didn't leave in a bad way. He's not from Miami. There wasn't all of those other elements that had to do with it to where it was much more of a business transaction. And yeah, by last night, by game 2, it's just another team. And the fact that Wade's not playing, he took the star power off the Heat. They're sub 500. Yeah, it was just another game. And the Cavs come out over 60% in the first quarter. They were shooting them out of the building to start things off. And like you said, you were saying halftime. I thought you were going to say end of the first quarter because I don't know if I'm the average fan if I go till halftime because the Cavs were so hot early that, it looked like this could be a historic type of victory before things kind of came back down to the mean a little bit, and then the Cavs pulled away again late in the fourth quarter.
Well, the one thing that the Cavaliers still have to work on, Jerry, is that they can get to that point where they outscored a team, say, last night with Miami. It was 38-23 at the end of the first quarter, but then they kind of hit those walls, those walls where they get a little comfortable, they relax a little bit, they take a step down in terms of the sense of urgency in which they play on the defensive end. And, if you stuck around for all fourth quarters, there were periods in the game where it felt like, well, maybe Miami's hanging around a little bit. But, that is something that does concern David Blatt and company, and rightfully so, because, any of the Bulls teams from the 90s or the Lakers teams from the early 2000s, they would have put their foot down and basically shot Miami out of the gym, no questions asked. But Miami did come within, I believe it was as many as 9, or I should say as few as 9, coming down the stretch run in the third quarter. But, a win is a win is a win, but you still have to be concerned with how to manage your players out of those low points. And I think that's on David Blatt to make the right moves. But, he is getting to a point where he's getting better with these substitutions because he has more depth this time around. I mean, anytime you can get 17 and 10 off of the bench from Thompson and then 13 from Schumpert, it's going to make your job as a head coach to move the pieces around to avoid those lulls that much easier.
You got that one right, man. And you talk about that starting the game again, then letting them back into it. They had 14 of 16 to start that thing, man. I mean, when your team starts out like that, man, rolling. The assists were rolling, really everything. And I'm with you when you talk about letting the teams back, because that's the thing that scares me too. When you play the better teams down the stretch and into the playoffs, and you have to be able to maintain that, as you said, keep the foot on the throat, keep the pedal to the metal. And I'd like to see them, now that you're here, you have won 13 of 14, you're rolling here heading into the break. Total different mindset when you come out in the second half, and that's one of the things that I'd love to see them get as they're continuing to grow chemistry, is to stop having those lulls where they let the other teams back in the game, especially the ones where they've got it. And it's hard, and it's especially hard during the regular season because you still got 30 more of these to go before they really start counting and all of that. But that to me is when you'll be able to say, you and I, hey, this team's getting into playoff form now because they're getting that killer instinct. They're still missing that. But you're seeing all kinds of things that you see as a team transitions. And, of course, chemistry is not everything because those Cavs teams, as we've mentioned, in 09 and 10, had great chemistry, some of the best, man, and they didn't get it all done. But you're starting to see flashes of those teams on the way this team interacts with each other. Winning does a whole lot of tonic and cures a whole lot of ills, of course, but you're starting to see those things too. Now I'd like to see it transition into a team that now we know each other. Now let's start really sharpening the blade for the playoffs in the second half.
And really that is why David Blatt is going to be so crucial for the Cavaliers going forward, because from the Cavaliers teams of the mid to late 2000s, the guy that would get you out of those lulls single-handedly and carry you on his shoulders was LeBron James, taking over and dominating games. Well, from a scoring aspect, he's really not going to do that conscientiously in the regular season. That's going to be a different story come playoff time. You just give the ball to 23 and let him do his thing. let him do his thing whenever the Cavaliers hit a wall offensively. But in order for the Cavaliers to solve those problems in which they let teams slip back into games when they really should be shooting them out of the gym, it's going to be on the head coach to kind of micromanage the game, put the pieces in the right places, and put players in spots where they are comfortable with, and hopefully they get Kevin Love back too. Hopefully this thing, whatever it was, I can't quite remember what the official eye injury title they gave last night, but hopefully they get him back too to try to help spread the floor, because they really did not have much floor spacing in the second half when Love was out there when Miami was making that comeback. So that will make Blatt's job easier as well, but I don't really think it's going to be all that serious going forward. But they are evaluating him as we speak, and we're hoping for the best for our boy, K-Love.
It's a right cornea abrasion is what they officially termed it. But, I'll tell you, Chris Bosh was Karnak the Great here in the preseason when he said what a tough season and adjustment was coming for Kevin Love, but I don't think he knew he was talking about on the basketball court. One thing after another. One, whether it's a fire in the media, an injury, back injury here, the eye. Kevin Love is getting physically and mentally beat up this season. And hey, that's what you make, $18 million or whatever for. But man, Kevin Love is I would have to say this has got to be the most difficult season, and which is nuts because you're on a winning team, but it's easily the most difficult season probably in the NBA that he's gone through. Just you start to feel for a guy because he's trying to find his place on the team. He's trying to fit in, and then you got all the media stuff which comes with the territory, but all the physical things that have popped up as well. And like I said, it just seems like if I'm Kevin Love, I'm waking up going, man, really? Something else today? We can't just have couple of good days in a row without something coming up, and he has definitely had a tough season so far.
Yeah, he really has. I mean, he's going to continue to try to find his place, maybe even into the playoffs. I mean, if you're a Cavalier faithful, then you hope that Love will have found his true identity with this team. But, I mean, it does concern you a little bit that maybe he doesn't find his identity here, and then maybe that gives him a reason to opt out at the end of the year or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here, or, at least I am. But,
well, that's what I say. Yeah, exactly what you just said.
You have to... Jerry, there are some guys out there that winning is just in their blood. It's in their genetics. It's just something that they know how to do. And then there are other guys out there that really, the best part of a winning equation is to learn on their own. In his Minnesota seasons when Love was averaging 26 and 13 and putting up all those monster numbers, the floor was set for him to be the superstar, but he really was not a factor in terms of the nitty-gritty work, the going after the 50-50 balls and the hard hat rebounds and blocking shots and getting steals. He was not really a part of that equation in Minnesota. So the only way for him to really get accustomed to that, to be a part of something that is so important in terms of winning, is he has to kind of be thrown into the fire, so to speak, and take a couple bumps and bruises here and there. So it's not necessarily all a bad thing what Kevin Love is going through right now, because it will make him a more humble man and most likely a better basketball player with his career in Cleveland come playoff time.
That's it, man. Iron is forged through fire. You know what I mean? It doesn't come off the press like that, man. And same thing with a rock turning into a diamond. It takes a large, massive amount of pressure to make that change happen. And I agree with you there. Although I do tell my buddies, I say, hey, we all know that people make jokes about Cleveland. And I don't mean just about the franchises. I mean about the luck of our city and our sports teams. I'm positive that there's been more than a handful of Cleveland, the luck-related jokes when it comes to Kevin Love. I couldn't blame the guy if he goes, man, I moved to Cleveland and I look at my eye gets poked out, my back gets knocked out, man. I mean, what happened to me? I was relatively healthy before this, man. I'm just kidding, man. You know what I'm saying. But I like the guy. He's sentimentally watching him. And I don't even think it's been that big of... Okay, it's been a struggle. The media's really been around it. But I keep going back to... I might have said this to you last week. If this is struggling, I'll take it until the summer. And then we can reevaluate what your role is going to be with this team. But as long as you're dropping double-doubles, as long as you're keeping quiet and not raising fusses and fires and starting as long as you're that kind of guy that's struggling, man, I'll take that struggle because you're contributing, you're dropping what you need to do, you're finding your way, you're not being disruptive. That's cool. But sentimentally, I find myself rooting for the guy because he's like that guy that just, he's had a tough stretch of it in more than just basketball ways. And I want to see him get it together. I'd like to see him do it here, but you said something back there, and I agree 100% with both parts of what you said. Number one, all of these things will definitely be in his thought process when he looks at what he's going to do come the summer. But the back half of what you said is the most important part. That's this summer. figuring out how much money he's worth is a problem for this summer. That's not something that we need to bother talking about now. If he leaves, okay, well, the Cavs will have to deal with the risk that they took. But between now and June, the only thing is how does this team play together? His money's paid. He's already, his salary's set. He's not a free agent right now. He's a basketball player on the Cavs, and that's all that matters.
Well, and the other thing, too, Jerry, and I think this is something that speaks volumes to LeBron knocking the two birds with one stone in terms of when he said that everything in Cleveland is earned and nothing is given. Well, in a certain aspect, he was speaking about himself and not taking the easy way to a championship. I mean, there's a part of me that says that when LeBron said that, he was speaking to the situation that Kevin Love is in now. Everything that he did throughout the course of his career, scoring the big-time games and big rebounding numbers, all of that was based on Kevin Love and his God-given ability to play the game of basketball. And that's just something that everybody has to go through a rough time with, is to be, like you said, to be forged into steel by fire and realize that everything is earned and that nothing is given. You can put, you could put together a Fab Five-like team. You could put all-stars at every position, and still everything would be earned. That's why you play the game of basketball 82 times a season, because you just never know. Anything can happen. That's the great thing about basketball. That's the magic of sports, is that you cannot take anything for granted, and Kevin Love is just in that process of not taking anything for granted anymore.
You got that right. He's not taking his eyesight for granted either, because he had a little bit of trouble with it for about a half an hour last night. He says he's going to try to give it a go. As you said, we don't know right now what it's going to be for tonight. He said he may even have to wear the goggles, although he's hoping not to. I'll be honest. I know that you want to go get this victory tonight, and it's all hands on deck, but if I'm the Cavs, I just don't even worry about it, man. Hey, you know what? Take this day and the days that are coming up with the All-Star break, and then let's regroup at this thing when we come back for the second half of the season next week. But I know, obviously, if he can play, he's going to want to play. But, I mean, I would just err on the side of caution. Either way, you got the Bulls tonight, and it's the final game here. Not a big deal who ends up in first place at the All-Star break, but the Cavs could put themselves there with this one. But these are the two teams, and I think just like it ends here at the end of the first half of the season, this is where everybody kind of thinks it's going to circle back around to in the East come playoff time. So a good test again to see where you're at here and end your first half against one of the best teams and probably the favorite, at least preseason, to come out of the East.
Yeah, and Jerry, both of these teams really not playing at full strength, at least for the Bulls. They've had several key players miss a lot of several key games, including Butler, who is questionable for the game tonight. Joakim Noah has missed more games this season than he ever has in the past, and now the Cavaliers, who were at full strength prior to the game last night with Kevin Love and the eye injury. But yeah, if I'm either one of these teams, I would have to err on the side of caution as well with the Bulls and Butler and with the Cavs and Kevin Love, because you're going to get some downtime in the next couple days, because remember, they extended the amount of time off in the All-Star break, so you're not going to get to play basketball for another week. It does give you the sense of urgency, but it's almost a sense of urgency that you really don't want to play with when something is bothering you, like Kevin Love with the eye, or Butler with his shoulder injury, I believe it is. But yeah, I mean, you've only got one game to go before the break, and it is an important one. You definitely do want to win games within your division. You do want to win games against teams that you could face come May. But is it really worth aggravating the situation with Kevin Love and his eye? I don't think so. Is it really worth aggravating the injury to Jimmy Butler, the Bulls' only 20-point scorer a night? I don't think so. I think that both teams are going to be not at full strength for this game. Still an important game and one that the Cavaliers want to win, but again, you have to err on the side of caution with your superstar.
Yeah, it's a national TV game tonight on TNT. But like I said, I'm with you with when you come talking about Kevin Love. He's had the back spasms anyway. You take today off, and he would be off for 8 days before he plays an actual basketball game. Because as you said, they're not back until the 20th, which is a week from tomorrow. So I would do that, no doubt about it. You know, a regular season game, while bragging rights are great, it's not the most crucial thing in the world. You end up at 33-22, okay, I'd prefer to win, but whatever. I mean, still, look at that. By the way, I love how the NBA takes their All-Star break 2/3 of the way through this season, man. When we come back, what is it, 26 games left in the post-All-Star break, second half of the season?
Yeah, I mean, it feels really short because they've only got one home game for the rest of February. I think they want to say about 5 or 6 home games in March, and then you kind of cut the month of April in half as the postseason starts at the latter of April 15th. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of just an NBA thing. I guess they just like to take their All-Star break later on in the season, but hey, I mean, it works for them, and the players are going to get valuable off time to recover, just from the grind of the season. But hopefully, as you mentioned a couple of shows ago, Jerry, hopefully it doesn't ruin the synergy that the Cavs are playing with right now, because when you sit for a number of days at a time, it can be hard to get that energy back in a short period of time.
And there's a completely different mindset here that they're going to come out with. That's a great place to leave this, Eddie. When you and I talk next week, let's set the stage. We'll be looking ahead at the final 26 games, and it is a different mindset, the way you come out of here, than the way you started the season. When you started the season, there was a big, long journey in front of you, and of course the roster was different and all of that. When you start this, there's 26 games. That is valuable real estate, and there's a different mindset. Now we're getting ready for the goal here. We're not just biding our time and becoming a team. So we'll talk about all that. We'll look ahead to the second half, look back at the first half, man, and plus we'll see how guys did in the All-Star game. Not a big fan of the All-Star game as much per se, but I do love me some three-point shootouts, and this year's may be the best field that they've ever had.
Yeah, well, we talked about this last week. I mean, this three-point shooting contest is absolutely loaded, and when you've got two guys in Steph Curry and Klay Thompson leading the way, I got to say, I have been amazed at those two young men shooting the three ball the way that they do in Golden State. Their former head coach, Mark Jackson, really was on to something. When he said that that dynamic duo right there could be the best three-point shooting duo of all time. Now, it's a little premature to say that. I mean, they still have plenty of years to go, and really, I would say that neither one of them is really in their prime per se. I mean, they could still play even better basketball than what they are playing right now. But tough competition for Kyrie Irving this time. And I think that's going to be good for Kyrie Irving, because he did win the All-Star Game MVP relatively easy from last year. But this is going to push him to be even better going forward as the season goes on. He has had a number of influences on him, Kyrie Irving has, to get better. To the fact to be the first guy to sit behind his coach and back him and say, I will do anything for you, Coach David Blatt. And playing with the USA team, that was a big benefactor for him. And now that the competition is stepping up in the three-point contest, that could make Kyrie Irving one of the top 5, if not maybe even one of the top 2 or 3 point guards that the NBA has to offer.
And it's fun watching every step of the way, man. And we'll see. Let's see what he does this weekend. Of course, they got to get there tonight. You got the Bulls. You and I will talk next week, and we'll look ahead to the second half of the Cavaliers season. And that should be the fun half, and we'll see where it ends.
All right, J-Rocc, you enjoy it, my man.
You too. Take it easy. Eddy Jansen, Cavaliers beat writer, More Than a Fan Cleveland. He's with us here every week talking Cavs hoops. It's been an interesting first half, that's for sure. And the stretch run should be even more interesting as we come on down to it. We'll talk more next week with Eddy. Let's take a break, get you some news. Come on back with Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. Indians, yeah, they didn't win last night because they're not playing yet, but we're right there. We're on the verge of it. We'll talk about some Indians heading into spring training. I'm going to bring up that conversation Dan and I were having yesterday, too, about the analytics and Charles Barkley, all that. We'll talk some, I don't know if I've ever asked Mike where he is on the whole Pete Rose thing, but if I haven't, I may have to ask him about that too, because it's a week before spring training, and since people don't have nothing to talk about, they start wondering, hey, are we ever going to reinstate Pete Rose? So I might as well join in on that too. I'll ask Mike. We'll talk some baseball with Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com coming up next after the news here on The Fix.
Come on, Cavs. Gotta make it happen. Come on, Cavs.
We here at the Sports Fix want to make all of your dreams come true.
What about my dream?
Edith, I told you I can't build your candy house. It will fall down. The sun will melt the candy. It won't work.
It will if it never rains.
Oh, maybe not all of them. Get your fix on the Sports Fix.
This is head coach Gary Waters at Cleveland State, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your automotive car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. They're open late Monday through Thursday until 9 p.m. and open early Saturday so you can check it off your to-do list and get on with your day. They also have a newly remodeled service lounge and additional service bay just for Quick Lane oil changes. Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck is located at 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 Bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 Bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck. That's QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Today on Save on Taxes, we ask 100 people what costs less than filing your taxes with IRS Free File.
Car seat. Oh, a pair of shoes.
The correct answer is nothing. When you use Free File, you get brand name software, tax prep, e-filing, and help with the new healthcare provisions, all for free.
So, did we win anything?
Everybody wins. freefile.irs.gov. It's fast, it's safe, it's free.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix.
News break.
I'm Bob Picozzi with an NBA report. It will be the final game before the All-Star break, and the winner will have sole possession of first place in the Central. Cleveland visits Chicago tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN Radio. The Bulls lead the Cavaliers by a half game. Golden State coach Steve Kerr will coach the West in Sunday's All-Star game. He's named Warriors guard Klay Thompson to replace the injured Kobe Bryant in the starting lineup, so Thompson will join his Golden State teammate Steph Curry.
Be a great weekend for him and for Steph, for our whole organization, really. It's such an honor and a great sign of how far the Warriors have come, changing the fortunes of the franchise. it's all sort of coming to fruition with this All-Star weekend, the way we're representing our franchise.
Kerr also named Houston's James Harden to replace the injured Blake Griffin in the starting lineup. Griffin's Clippers teammate DeAndre Jordan is leading the league in rebounding at the All-Star break.
My teammates know that's my job, is to control the paint for us and get as many rebounds as possible, keep our offensive rebounds and try to get us extra possessions. But everybody's had to step it up a little bit more because Blake's been out, and whenever he comes back, we'll be a lot stronger.
Griffin expected to be sidelined for 3 to 4 weeks after undergoing surgery for a staph infection in his elbow. 5 wins in their last 6 have pulled Coach Scott Brooks' Thunder within only a half game of the 8th and final playoff spot in the West.
We're playing good basketball. I like the rhythm of the team right now. I think we're playing well. We have our guys back. It was good to see everybody back. Steven, unfortunately we had a setback there, but we're passing the ball, we're moving the ball, we're making some shots. Our guys are doing a great job of finding each other. But I really believe Kevin and Russell has done a great job of leading us through this time.
Much more on the NBA during the 6 p.m. Eastern Time Sports Center on ESPN TV.
Now, back to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live Hour 2, kicking off here across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Getting ready to be joined by Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. I'm J-Rocc, Jerry Myers. This is the Sports Fix, and you guys are the Sports Fix, I don't know, universe, nation, bunch of crazy guys sitting around listening to me every day on the radio. Take your pick, whatever it is. Welcome in, guys. Thanks for being here with us. Phones aren't open, but Facebook's always open. Facebook never closes. I mean, until they figure out a way to charge you for keeping it open anyway. Facebook.com/thesport. They charge you for everything else now. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the Sports Fix CLE. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the Sports Fix CLE. I'll tell you what, speaking of changes, I don't know if you guys noticed, whatever, social media, whatever, it is what it is. It's good and bad at the same time. Facebook used to be really great for our show. Like, seriously, a huge portion of our audience was grown before they decided to really make that difficult on guys like myself, small businesses. Twitter's no better anymore. I was rolling. I was like, okay, Twitter's working here. Maybe I can make this work instead of the way Facebook was. But now they're using the algorithms and they're changing the way news feeds are set up there too. And pretty soon, the Twitter will just be a different version of Facebook. That's all. It'll just be Facebook for people with short attention spans and 140 characters or less. I mean, that's once you start doing that, because at least that. When I was, I look at the reach that our stuff gets. Anyway, no reason to go off on a big rant, but there was a note, at least organically, I had such a small amount of Twitter followers compared to Facebook. But once Facebook made their change and gave guys like me the shaft, all of a sudden, the percentages were better on Twitter because at least people were seeing it. Even though I had a smaller number, every one of them was seeing what I put out. Rather than 1 or 2% of the 20,000 on Facebook, it would get ridiculous. And it's gotten a little better. I've figured out some ways to float the ship a little better, but Twitter now is doing all that with the algorithm. So if you ever wonder why when you roll down your Twitter feed, you don't see as many, or you see the same faces a little more often, that's why. Because little by little, every time you click on a tweet now, they're memorizing the tweets that you look at, and they're customizing your algorithms as well. It'll get worse as they keep evolving. But to me, that was the one thing that separated the two. Now you're both equal opportunity offenders. All right, pick it up there. Has nothing to do with what we're talking about because we're talking baseball with Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. I'm telling you, it's the only sports show in the world where my ADD self can go on just random tangents and then come back and go, okay, forget what I was just saying. Let's talk about batting cages and baseball. Mike Brandenberry, DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com, and with us here on The Fix. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, man? I got a solution for your Facebook problem because we have the same thing. It's real easy. You just get every single person who listens to you You just get them to go to Facebook right now, type in the Sports Fix, and go through about your last 10 posts and just go like them all. Just go comment right now, and then, you'll be outsmarting the algorithms, and they'll start feeding all your work up to the top. It's that easy.
You think you just taught me something, Mike? You think you just taught me? You think I don't know that? You think I don't? You think that's why?
You don't ever mention on the show to go to the page and like it.
No, you're right though. I do. You know what? That's a good idea. I don't really do that on the show.
Write that down.
Well, no, I do post. Once a month, I have a post usually that goes up on the page that just says, hey, Facebook's giving us the shaft, so do me a favor and just go like a couple of our most recent posts or whatever, because as long as you interact with us. Right, if you interact, but the problem is if we're already off of your news feed, then it doesn't do me any good to post because you're not seeing it anyway. So now I'm just yelling in the forest and nobody can hear me when the tree falls down. So you're right, I might have to start maybe just like once a week reminding people of that on the air too. And two, they get confused because there's me personally, and I repost everything on my personal account too. And then there's the Sports Fix fan page, and that's the other reason I started doing that, because I say, you know what? I get 2 bites at the apple now. If I post everything on both pages, there's more of a chance that it'll pop up. But man, dude, Facebook got so bad while we're talking about it that I had to go in and set my friends and family to literally send me a notification every time they just update their status, because some people I knew were having major life things happening, and I'd find out like a day or two later when Facebook decided to show me a post about it, and I'm like, what? Okay, this is my family. How am I not seeing this? So, and then I fixed it. So literally they tell, but that's nuts, because most people don't go do that, and then you wonder why you keep seeing the same 5 people on your news feed all day.
It's true. Facebook wasn't like this, but ever since they've changed their algorithms to, instead of just running your news feed in line, I'll be honest, I've become a Facebook elitist, Jerry. If you post something on a somewhat regular basis and I don't like it, you are no longer my friend. I unfriend you because it's my way to try and get the crap that I still like to feed into my news feed. So if you complain about how much laundry you have to do, or if you tell me about your kid's Halloween costume, or how the person, at the DMV was rude to you, you will no longer be my Facebook friend. I've raised the bar of standards for Facebook friends on my news feed, and it's just not a happy accepting place like it once used to be.
No, not at all, man. And then I see the trouble that your site is obviously having the same stuff that ours is. The trouble getting ours to reach the people that already clicked on the page once and said, hey, we like what you do. We want to see when you post, so we're going to click this like button here. But now they still don't get it. But then I scroll down my newsfeed, like you said. I see the people complaining about the laundry, showing me pictures of their lunch and the thermometer inside their car on cold days. And the fact that it snowed, there's going to be 800 pictures of snow on the ground. Where did all this crap come from? But the people that want to see the Sports Fix updates can't get them, because you decided they don't want to see them, even though they decided they do. I mean, where do you? How do you answer that? Mark Zuckerberg making billions of dollars, but Twitter's doing it to us too now, bro. They're starting to change now, where they're going to make it every bit as bad as Facebook, man. It's just, why? Because they have to figure out how to make money. I mean, it became too big and it was free, and they said, well, wait a minute. This is worth something here, and somebody had to pay for that IPO for Facebook.
Absolutely. Enough Facebook talk. That Facebook talk is for our grandmas, Jerry.
I guess, the other man.
Thing. Facebook.
I guess
Facebook was once designed for college kids, and now it's all for the college kids as grandmas.
You're right. What's the new thing now? What do we? I don't know, man. What's?
I don't know. I'm not in college anymore.
What's the new thing, man? Like, We're behind it. What do we got to do? Are we supposed to be Pinterest is for middle-aged housewives.
I don't know.
What else? I don't know.
I think
Tumblr.
My wife makes dinner now.
Tumblr. Reddit. Maybe we got to get on the Reddit thing. I don't know. Uber? No, that's car delivery people, and they kidnap you too.
Let's just talk some baseball. I'll ask some kid in the hallway what's cool.
There you go. Catch them in the hallways and ask them what the kids in school are into nowadays, man. And if they say Tinder, watch out, though, man. Some nasty stuff happens over there, man. But anyways, hey, let's talk.
I'm gonna keep it that way.
No, my friends always. I joke with some of my younger friends. What we're talking about, I have real life. I go, look, man, you guys keep me in the lifeblood of not being the old guy. You know, you guys, whatever you're talking about, then I know that's what's going on. And so that's how I stay hip with that stuff. But hey, let's talk a little bit about a lot of here. We'll talk some baseball. A couple of things I wanted to get into with you here. I see Bruce in the chat room, man. One of the names that came up yesterday is Barry Zito. Indians, one of the teams, checking him out. Man, I loved Barry Zito in 2002. I did. When he won 23 games, he was an awesome story, man. But, looking at his career, I get it. He's a veteran arm. He's a lefty. He has pitched for 14 years. He's only had 6 seasons where he was above 500. And since 2006, he's only had 1 good season. And it's such an outlier compared to the other ones that you go, wow. And they were all in the National League. All reasons that I'm not the most excited about that. But I would be all about bringing a guy into camp like that and seeing what he could do. Can he be the 2015 Scotty Kazmir?
For all the reasons you just outlined, the answer is probably no, because since 2002, he hasn't been Scott Kazmir on a good day or a bad day. Most likely the answer is no, but he's a flyer guy, and I don't think there's anything wrong with, every team does it. The old saying, there's no such thing as too much pitching. To me, there's no difference. The Indians would tell you that there's differences, but to me, there's no difference between, they had Matt Capps around for a couple years while he was hurt, and Sean Markham now, and, if Barry Zito wants to make a comeback, sure, whatever. If it's not, as long as they're not giving him innings at the deficit of, young developing players, and the Indians have, this regime has never done that. As long as everyone's getting their work, hey, if they want to give Barry Zito a shot in Goodyear, go for it. I'll give the counter argument, to anybody who doesn't want to give Barry Zito a shot. Have we seen so much from Nick Hagedorn and that we are convinced that we absolutely, under no circumstances, need a potential, left-handed bullpen guy? We're solid. We're good beyond the shadow of a doubt, because I'm not. So, maybe Barry Zito can get guys out of the bullpen. Maybe he is the 5th starter. I don't think so. If you're asking me if I think we'll see Barry Zito on, the roster come April 1st, I would say no. But, if it's not at the deficit of other players in the organization who have more upside, sure, why not?
I agree with you. I absolutely do. I have no problem. I don't have a problem with anybody coming to camp, pretty much.
Call Mark Mulder. He tried to come back last year. Get all the A's back together.
Put that staff back together, man. But you got, not just that, that's a good guy to have in camp, even if he doesn't make the team, because of the experiences that he's had, because of the craftiness. It is a Cy Young guy. You know what I mean? There's benefits all the way around. I'm with you. I have no problem. I'm one of those guys that you can bring 500 guys to camp for all I'm concerned. Bring every guy whose name you recognize. Bring them all to camp. Who cares? As long as we're only making the right decisions when it comes to putting the final team together, then I think you can do no wrong when you look at a guy like that. It's only when you've got, nudge, nudge, wink, wink type things, then you go, well, this is, but bring him in if he's the one, and who knows, because there's more than just the Indians interested anyway. So, we're jumping the gun here by even having that conversation, because there could be better opportunities for him elsewhere. So who knows? But yesterday, a lot of buzz, people talking about that there, and we'll see what happens, man. The Indians right on the corner of spring training. I'm interested to see once things get started there, how things do start shaking out. But we still got to get there. We still got a couple of days, man. The Indian schedule, I want to ask you real quick. Not a lot about the schedule or anything, but I noticed something that they pointed out on the thing, and I was just, my first thought when I saw that they actually pointed out that they're going to do a couple of those hour early starts on the weeknight games earlier in the season, and 6:10 instead of 7 or whatever. And part of me got to thinking, I'm like, you know what? You may artificially add a few hundred people, just because if I'm downtown, and 6 o'clock's when rush hour is going to keep me trapped in my car anyway, man. So maybe that, what the hell? I'll stay downtown for an extra couple hours and watch this game or whatever. But I thought that was interesting. I like to see attempts to change, and obviously they know that the early poor attendance, that's at least an attempt to change something. Maybe by moving it up an hour, we can add a few bodies to these early cold games.
I am gonna pretend that when I said last year to Curtis Danberg one time in passing that I like 6 o'clock starts, because they've had a couple on Saturdays in the past, the last couple of years. I'm
Did you
going
say that
to
on our show
pretend
too?
I'm going to pretend in my own mind that I'm fully responsible for this idea, because I do, Jerry. I love this. I don't want to pretend for a second that attendance is going to skyrocket because of it. But I think it's a good move. I think it's a great move. One of the things that I brought up, and it is really true. I give the Indians a lot of credit in that. I think they are working more and more every year to become more and more family-oriented. And I can tell you as a guy who loves to go to games, and I know we have talked about this over the years too, but my number of ticket purchases since I've had kids has gone down. My wife and I, pre-children, probably went to 20 to 30 games a year. And, we'll go. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. The biggest thing to us is, well, we haven't been in a little while, so let's go. It's our entertainment. Some people get season passes at Cedar Point. Some people like movies. Whatever is the thing that you do on a regular basis for fun. For us, it's Indians baseball. But I can tell you that since we've had kids, and for all the things that the Indians do with the kids' clubhouse, and their promotions are all great. I can just tell you from a parent point of view, it is tough to round up the kids, get down there, and get to a 7 o'clock game, sit through, we can do a whole nother show on how long baseball takes, and that's, the Indians only can saddle 1/30th of the blame of that. That's not their fault of pace of play directly. But there's a lot of nights that, a game doesn't get over until 10:30, and I live, 25 minutes from downtown. By the time you get out, that's another, 15 minutes. So, you're looking at 40, 45 minutes from the end of a game until you get home. And it's not crazy that you don't get home until after 11 o'clock. And that's tough to do with kids. It's tough to do just as a parent. Don't even take into account, how moody your kid is going to be the next day after you wear them out and keep them up until 11 o'clock. That's hard work as a parent. I mean, I know you can relate to that, but and having to deal with that in itself. And so the idea, I mean, I know in the last couple of years they have had some 6 o'clock Saturday games, and I just think that hour change. Again, I don't want to pretend that this is going to solve all the world's problems, but instead of getting home, a little after 11, you get home at a little after 10. Man, that changes a lot of things in my mind.
Comfort,
too. I can tell you, and I think, some of the other things, to be honest,
temperature. I mean, the temperature drops.
You took the words out of my mouth. The weather. I mean, there's nothing fun about sitting at 10:30 at night.
That chill gets quick.
40-degree baseball game. If you can get that thing over with an hour earlier, when it's instead of 40 degrees, maybe it's 45 degrees. I mean,
plus, you keep the sun
of increasing attendance are a little better. Yeah.
Yeah, you keep the sun, which artificially warms you even when the air is a little chilly. Once you get to that point, whether it's 8, 9 o'clock, where that sun goes down past the side of the stadium, that instantly the weather's just going to switch and you're going to get that bite in the air, like you said. So maybe that extra hour makes that difference as well, too. I think it's a good idea, but definition of insanity, same thing over and over again. I like to see, hey, okay, we've got to try to change this. We're not just going to stand here and keep going, well, people aren't showing up. Oh, well, what do we do about it? We're trying to do something about it. And I don't know if you made that suggestion on our show or not, but I'll give you credit for it too, man. That's fine. Them guys over there love to.
I made mention to Curtis Danberg one time. Once I said, we really like those Saturday games because it starts at 6. So I mentioned it once. So like I said, I'm going to take full credit for the entire idea and their decision. So
that's yours. We're giving it to you, man.
If it seems to work well for you and your family, thank me. And if it doesn't, then I had nothing to do with it.
You had nothing at all to do with it.
That's right.
Looking ahead too, some of the other announcements as the Tribe nailed some schedule details here. You got 6 national TV games. There's going to be 2 on ESPN, 3 on Fox Sports 1, and 1 on the actual national Fox game of the week. Half a dozen national games. They still don't got no love for the Indians, but the Tribe will have to change that on the field. Looking at the interleague, now does it do anything for you? St. Louis, Cincinnati, Chicago Cubs, Milwaukee, the 4 home opponents here for the interleague play. You got St. Louis and Cincinnati in May, Chicago in June, Milwaukee in August. I don't know, man. I mean, I get the locality thing of it, but not a lot there other than Cincinnati. I mean, you got the interstate thing, man. Tribe doesn't really have a lot of National League. There's no real bite to any of those. It's just, hey, come see the Brewers. Hey, come see the Cubs. That kind of stuff.
The only thing I like about interleague, and it's, I don't know, I'm probably in a severe minority, but one of the things I like about interleague, especially when they play the National League Central, is it's a fun way for a quick trip. You name any of those towns, maybe with the exception of Milwaukee, you can make it in a pretty easy day trip to one of those towns, catch a ball game or two, and get home, in just a couple days. If you're not take a week-long 10-day vacation guy in the summer, again, for my family, since we've had children, my wife and I used to go somewhere for 10 days on an airplane to some other part of the world, and now suddenly the idea of dragging a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old to the airport, that seems to curtail our plans pretty quickly. But there's nothing better than jumping in a car and hitting one of those cities, especially if you've never been there. I know this irritates Cleveland Browns fans, but one of my favorite cities to go to for a quick, fun weekend is Pittsburgh. Just a nice town, nice ballpark. A lot to do downtown. It's a town my family enjoys. So that's one of the few things I like about interleague when they play the teams, maybe in the same time zone.
Oh, yeah. I just meant as far, they don't have, it's not the real, the rivalries, but that's cool. It is what it is. Like I said, it's your trip to see, and you're talking about the road ones, but same teams at home here. And then, looking at the couple of other notes from the schedule as things are, I didn't even realize they've got 3 10-game road trips here this season. You got a long one in the middle of June, and then you got one in August, and they got one 10-game homestand here. And man, I'm just glad to be talking about games that are on the schedule. We know when. I mean, we're so close, man. I'm grasping for anything to warm it up because it got a little cold here again today, a little bit of snow. But man, we are right around the corner. Oh, something I wanted to mention with you before you go. two things I wanted to talk about. One, Dan Wismar had to bring you up yesterday. We were talking about. I was laughing at Charles. I was laughing at Charles Barkley the other night when he went off on the stat guys. He just went off on the analytics guys and their nerds that never got girlfriends and couldn't play sports and all of that stuff. So we went on a whole conversation about that, and he got to bring it up that it was you that had mentioned about Brantley, considered by defensive, zone ratings and stuff, was it slightly below average in the outfield, and that's where we go, look, that's where I understand Charles Barkley or these guys' point about you didn't play the game, because I don't care what your numbers on the paper tell me. If that's the case, then can I get a whole team full of slightly below average defenders? Because I think that's so incorrect. And you said the same thing as far as, the way people would use that, and that's not the way you view him if you actually watch him play. But that was one that we brought up when you go, okay, yeah, that's the exact opposite of what they'll try to tell you on the paper.
Yeah, I think analytics, and I think any kind of statistic is, just that. It's one way to judge or grade a player, and I think when I listen to people that don't like new stats and don't like analytics, you're refusing to evolve, and I think that's a bad decision. And I don't think the old stats are cryptic and totally outdated, and I don't think that the new stuff is all witchcraft either. I mean, I think you have to take it all with a grain of salt, and it's you use it all to kind of build the picture. And I agree with you, the example of Michael Brantley, it would be nice if every Indians defender was, slightly below average like Michael Brantley. I think this team, I in my opinion, honestly, I think that's the difference between the Indians, being projected, as a team in the pack or being the favorite in the division. I mean, in my mind, if this team was an average defensive team, I think they're the favorites, because I think it's their biggest area of concern. So, I mean, if they could all just be below average like Michael Brantley, this team's probably the division favorite. But, I think, there, to use the old adage, what is it? There's statistics, something about statistics, or lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yes, exactly. Lies, damn lies.
I think you can get a number to say whatever you want, and you can find whatever your point is if you look hard enough or you twist the numbers the right way, and that's whether it's new age analytics or whether it's old school numbers. There's been people, griping about RBIs for decades, saying, if a guy can't drive guys in, it's not his fault that there's nobody on base. Well, that's true. But there's also some credence to, if you hit third, most likely there are guys on base in front of you. And if you only have 60 RBIs at the end of the year, without getting into a whole bunch of other numbers, it's probably a good, simple indication that you're not very strong in the clutch. And, you, like I said, you can twist numbers how you want, but I think statistics are just that, the new ones and the old ones all kind of build its own picture as to, the overall picture of your team or that player, however you're looking at it. And, I also laugh at guys like Charles Barkley, not for the sake of your show, but hopefully for my livelihood. He's not listening right now, but I hate when I hear any ex-ball player use the line, well, he doesn't know because he's never played. And
I know.
That their immediate opinion is somehow more valuable because they've played. I always use the example, and I didn't mean to, this isn't meant as a personal attack of anyone, but there are a ton of those guys out there who go to the, well, when someone argues or disagrees with them, and say, well, I hope that my years in baseball, give me some credibility. Well, your years in baseball should be able to demonstrate your intelligence and your know-how of the game, and that gives you credibility. I always use this analogy, but I encourage anyone, whether you like the broadcast team of the Indians or any other team for that matter, watch a Mets game when you have time and listen to Ron Darling and listen to Keith Hernandez. They never tell you that they used to play. But if you watch a 9-inning game with those guys, you'll know that they played because they're that smart. And they break down and they show you things in a game that you don't see and that you don't notice. And I will be very open and honest to say that you don't get from a lot of other ex-ball players. So I always hate well, he doesn't know because he didn't play. Because I always think there's a lot of guys who have played, regardless of sport, who still don't know. Tell me why you know. Don't just tell me that you played.
No, because I agree with that too. You don't have to, personally know what all the ingredients taste like to make a cake. However, you probably have a different insight if you do. You know what I mean? But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be, you could have, whatever. There's a lot of examples.
I had a ball player one time in the Indians organization drops well, you never played at this level, so you wouldn't understand line. And I encouraged them to explain it to me. And that's part of my day job as a teacher. You write, you have to explain yourself. And he didn't do a very good job of explaining himself, and he knew it. And he said, well, I just know because I've played, and you don't get it. And I said, well, I don't buy that. And I said, I'm a writer. I've written a lot of obituaries in my life, but I've never died. It doesn't mean that I'm not qualified to write one.
That's a great one. That's a great one. I've never died, but it doesn't mean that I can't write an obituary, man. There you go, man. I can dig that. All right. Hey, man, just something I wanted to mention there. I'm in the middle. Like Dan and I both agree 100%, and it's pretty close to what you said. We like the advanced analytics as a tool in your toolbox. If you want to take what you know from playing or from being in the game, and then from what your own experiences are and what you've learned, and then you want to add that as I liken it like I don't even know, you're a teacher. I don't know if they still have them, but back in the day, before all the computerized graphics, they'd have those when you do the slideshows, and then you could put the multiple plastic covers over top of something with different graphics on it. So it's before they could layer up with graphics on the screen, it would be it would show different areas of emphasis on whatever they were showing. And same thing there, man. You can add that. You can layer it over top and go, well, how does my opinion look when I balance it with this interesting measuring tool or whatever? So if it's a tool in your toolbox, that's cool, man. But if you're living and dying by it, you're probably not going to be successful at the end, because you still have to balance instincts, gut feeling, knowledge of just what you know works and doesn't work, and then that can let the smart ones finish over the top. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, I think so. One of my problems with new age analytics, and some of them are especially in stats that I like. I think at this point, most anyone who is aware of new statistics is familiar with WAR, and at least what the basis
above
of it is.
Yes.
My biggest problem with WAR, and also what I think, maybe
real quick,
even
for people that don't know, explain to them wins above replacement. That's like when you replace what would that player win, the number of games the team would win compared to the average player in his place, right? Is that a pretty decent explanation?
Yeah, so a player who is a replacement level or like a AAA level player would be a 0. And so a player with a positive WAR would be better than your baseline player. All-stars usually have a WAR around 5. MVP candidates are around 7 to 8. Corey Kluber, I believe, was a 7.6 last year.
Right, yeah.
Michael
7.6.
Brantley was in the 7s. To give you an idea, Nick Swisher was one of the lowest of all regular players, and I think a negative 1.4. I'm pretty close.
Hold
I'm doing that off the top of my head.
Negative 1.4. That means you will lose 1.5 games more than if you just had the average AAA player in his spot.
Yep, correct. They could have just played Jesus Aguilar all last year and been better off, essentially. But anyways, I think for some people, and I like WAR, okay, and I like a lot of the new age statistics that definitely work that way, where they try to equate, your win versus another player. The problem that I have, and I think some people do maybe without explaining it this way, is there's no explanation to us how to calculate WAR. Jerry, you and I cannot sit down with our calculator. We can take hits and divide by at-bats, and we can figure out batting average. And we know that 300 is better than 280, and we understand that. You and I cannot sit down with a calculator and figure out why a certain player is a 3-win player versus a 2.8 player. And I think for a lot of people, they have a hard time with that. I mean, certainly if we make a statement that someone, doesn't have as much power as the next, and someone argues with us, you can add up their extra base hits and compare them and say, I'm right and you're wrong. If you have a 3-win player versus a 2.8 win player, and I tell you that the 2.8 win player is better, you don't really have a good explanation to me as to what makes that 3-win player actually better, because we can't figure out the parts of WAR. That is where I go to. That is the part of the stat geeks who somehow have hidden formulas somewhere, Bill James and his calculator kids, that figure this out. And like I said, I think there's a lot of value in those stats, but when regular people like you and me can't figure out the difference, I think regular people like you and me have a hard time buying into those also.
Yep, and that is a big part of it, too. That's where people start to go, well, that's just stats. That's just mumbo-jumbo hocus. But speaking of Bill James, did you see, what was his projection for Kluber? I thought I saw it the other day. A 500 season. I think he had Kluber projected at 13-13. With an ERA about a half a run higher than what he had last season. I can't remember what it was, but I do remember that it was about a half a run higher. And but I was like, wow, that's a fall back to the mean for sure, man. I mean, I get that you don't come into a season and go, hey, Corey Kluber's going to be like he was last year, but that's a tumble back into the mean a whole lot too. How is it that he even makes those? I don't even get. That's where you say, how do you contemplate WAR? How do you make those projections? Based on all of that.
I agree. I don't know what wizard box he's using to come up with those projections. I will tell you from just my own personal opinion and from the eye test. Corey Kluber has improved each season. I think he's certainly the best pitcher that they have. But I talked about this all the way back to the middle of last year. I think this is a big year for Corey Kluber to either demonstrate that last year was, the beginning of a trend where he is, maybe one of the top 5 or 10 American League pitchers, or he's a guy that had a career year. And at this point, I don't know how you can argue against either one of those sides. And, if you think that Corey Kluber had a career year last year, then he very well will regress to the mean. And that's that's always part of one of my arguments about the Indians is we always talk about the guys who are going to improve, but we never acknowledge the guys that are going to regress. And certainly Corey Kluber is a guy who could regress. I think it's unfair to expect him to pitch at the same level he did last year. I'll be happy as you and the next guy if he does. I mean, I say the same for Michael Brantley. I think it's unfair to expect him to hit 320 with 20 homers. I mean, there's a reason why he was 3rd in the American League in the MVP voting, because only Mike Trout and Victor Martinez clearly had better years in the league than he did I'm not sure it's fair to expect those numbers from him. So if he regresses, if those two regress, I mean, that's part of the basis of where I'm not really excited about this team, because I guess I do expect some regression from those guys.
And I'll tell you what, that's a perfect way to bring this back around to where we started. Well, once we stopped talking about Facebook and started talking about sports, we were talking about Barry Zito. And the first 3 years of Barry Zito is a very good measuring point to compare to where Corey Kluber's at. He peaked at a 23-5 season in 2002, All-Star, Cy Young, MVP, all these things, and he had a 2.75 ERA. His WAR was almost exactly what Corey Kluber's was that year. It was a 7.2 that year, one of the highest in baseball, and he made one All-Star game. Since then, only had one above 500 season since then. The next decade, he's been a 500 pitcher most seasons, and worse than that at his low point. So as hard as it is to imagine, well, you don't just go right back to the mean, that's almost exactly what happened. Zito followed his Cy Young 23-5 season with a 14-12. The next season he was 11-11, and the next season he was 14-13. He came back to the mean. So they're, not saying that. I hope Corey Kluber is the Klubot, and 10 years from now we're going, wow, really? We got him for what again? But that is a great example of a guy that we were just talking about at the beginning of this, having a very similar rocket early on in his career and then coming back down to earth, basically.
Yeah, and, I think this is a season where we'll find out, is Corey Kluber in the same category with, from a right-handed standpoint, probably a little different stuff for sure. But, is he an American League guy where, he's on the curve like Justin Verlander and, earlier in his career and Felix Hernandez is now? Or, like you said, is he a guy who peaks and then becomes mediocre? I think he's somewhere in the middle. I really don't mean this negatively. I mean, we should all be lucky enough to have career years like Corey Kluber did last year.
Yeah, we should.
But I think that last year was his career year, and when his career's over, just my gut feeling, I feel like he will be very comparable to the guy that, ironically, he was traded for, which is Jake Westbrook. And being Jake Westbrook's not that bad, but I don't know that he's also a guy you want to hook as your number one guy in your rotation. I mean, 2 years ago, I don't think anyone was saying Corey Kluber, he's gonna be the guy. He's grown into it, and hopefully he is the guy. But if he's not, I still think, if this team is going to be successful in 2015, 16, and beyond, I think that rides squarely on the shoulders of Danny Salazar and Trevor Bauer. And I guess at this point, I'll toss Carlos Carrasco in there too. If Corey Kluber is Jake Westbrook, he makes a real nice number 2 or number 3 starter with those guys all around him. If one of them does grow into that Felix Hernandez, Justin Verlander kind of guy, and I think they have the potential.
Hey, man, it all starts next week. We get to see how this is going to start to shake out. I'm up for it. Hey, I want to set you up with something that I wanted to talk about today, but we didn't because we were complaining about Grandma's Facebook too much at the beginning. But we could set this up and talk about it when we come back next week, man, because it's something I don't know if I've ever gotten your temperature, so tease me a little bit if you want, man. But Pete Rose, Hall of Fame conversation starting to come out as they always do at the beginning of spring training. There is a new person in charge of baseball, which maybe opens that up. I don't know that you've ever actually told me on the air. Are you a give Pete? I don't necessarily say put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame, but I think if you're allowed to have you're allowed to make your decisions about Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and all that, then you should be allowed to make your own decision about Pete Rose. Reinstate him so he can go on the ballot, and if enough voters want him in, then he'll go. It's very tough, as we know, to get in the Baseball Hall of Fame. So odds are he may not get the votes anyway, but that's me. I'm a, hey, let the people decide that thing. Let the voters decide. But do you think Pete Rose should go in the Hall of Fame? We can talk more about it next week, but I don't think I've ever asked you.
Yeah, that's a good topic for next week. I would say the short answer is, is 25 years long enough to serve of a life sentence? And, I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. I think I've changed my mind. I used to be a hardcore, no way, he shouldn't be in the Hall. I wouldn't say I've come over to the yes side, but I think it's definitely worth a conversation. I'll lay out my conspiracy theories to you. I'll bet you he gets in, but I'll bet you he doesn't get in for about another 5 years, because I have theories as to why I don't think they want to put him in right now.
Now they got to wait until they get Cincinnati to bid in that All-Star game, so then you can tie it all together. And wow, there you go. I didn't even. Yeah, you are right. It is down in Cincinnati. I don't pay attention to where the All-Star games are, man. Like,
I'll call you from there this year.
If it's not in Cleveland, I don't know, bro. I'll be honest with you, man. I check out All-Star Weekend for all the sports and Pro Bowl. I check out, man. I get into a little home run derby and a little 3-point shootout, and that's about it, man. I don't know why, but I just I'm not all into it. I used to be, but whatever. It's because we see them so much now, man. You see every team all you want, man. That's why basketball's game doesn't do it for me anymore. I can see Klay Thompson twice a week on TNT. I see Tim Duncan all the time, so it's not as big of a deal for me to see them, when they all play and they don't play defense. So whatever.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I mean? We'll talk about it. We got stuff next week. We'll talk about the Indians here. We'll talk some Pete Rose here. And I still want to hear your thoughts on the whole pitch clock thing too, man. We're going to just keep changing the game here. Let's have some fun. First spring training conversation. They're getting there next week, and we'll get there with them.
Sounds good.
You got it. Mike, hey, anything cooking on didthetribewinlastnight.com?
Next week kicks off our spring training coverage just like everybody else. We'll start really on Sunday this weekend before pitchers and catchers even report, kind of with a look at some of the Indians' farm system, some prospects. We'll look a little bit at their drafting history kind of since their shakeup in 2008 and how they've improved. But I don't know that we would necessarily want to give them a gold star rating either. And then, we'll look at some prospects that have been drafted over the last couple years, Bradley Zimmer, Mike Poppy, and Clint Frazier, and that'll take us right into next Wednesday with pitchers and catchers, and we'll start profiling and breaking down some guys that I'm sure we're going to hear quite a bit from over the next 6 weeks.
That's it. Yes, we will, man. I told Dan Wismar next week he's going to give me his list of guys that he thinks may, and Jeff Gorman, we're going to talk about some of the guys that may make this roster that people aren't talking about right now. I mentioned that you mentioned Tyler Holt as a name. I'm
starting the Tyler Holt campaign right
now. So we'll see, because I think there will be at least one or two surprises before it shakes out. Mike, have a good one. Can't wait to talk to you next week. Pitchers and catchers will be there. We'll be doing it. Baseball's here, man. It's been a winter. It's been a winter, but it's over. And we will emerge like the groundhog next week talking some baseball.
Sounds good, my man. I'll talk to you later.
You got it. Mike Brandenberry, didthetribewinlastnight.com. Make sure you bookmark it and check him out every week here during the off season. He's here every Thursday. When we hit the summertime, usually Mike's here 2 or 3 times a week because, he's got nothing else to do. So why not do the Sports Fix thing with us? But we'll pick up from there next week. Mike, Pitchers and Catchers Report. Hey, guess what? May even have another Indian surprise. May have even already told you about the other Indians surprise, the contest coming up, if Charles didn't ruin it earlier. But maybe I'll decide to tell you guys about it tomorrow. We'll have to see. But we're going to take a break. Final break of the day. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, still a lot to get into. Cavaliers tonight. Monsters going for some revenge at the Q while the Cavs are on the road. Couple of things to do, and then we'll call it a day, set the stage for tomorrow. Don't go anywhere. Final segment of the Sports Fix coming up next.
So catch Indian fever, be a believer with the Cleveland Indians.
there's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
Throwing you the best sports commentary in town. The Sports Fix.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Looking to upgrade your league trophy? Check out fantasyjocks.com for championship belts, rings, trophies, and more. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious.
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's fantasy sports superstore, fantasyjocks.com. SportsFix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The SportsFix.
Hey, everybody. Listen up.
Listen up, guys.
Hey, guys. Listen up. No one should ever hit a woman.
Not their wife, not their girlfriend, not their date. No woman should have to fear violence.
Especially not from someone they know and trust.
But that's the reality for too many women.
We have to change it.
It's up to each of us, because even one is too many.
Violence against women hurts all of us. Growing up, I was ashamed and afraid of my father when he abused my mom.
The worst abuse of power is when a man raises his hand to hurt a woman. We all have to take responsibility. So if you see someone threatening a woman, step up, speak out, and get help.
Dating violence hurts all of us. So step up and help end it. Because one is too many.
One is too many.
One is too many.
One is too many.
End the violence. Because it's wrong.
Because one is too many.
Hey, Cleveland, this is Tristan Thompson of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and you're listening to Sports Fix.
Sometimes I dream that he is me. You got to see that's how I dream to be. I dream I move. I dream I groove. Like Mike. If I could be like Mike.
You guys remember that? Be Like Mike. 50th anniversary coming up here. They're making a big deal out of it. That's why I played it. I love this song. I was the biggest Michael Jordan guy. I mean, I lived to get those videos. Back then it was on VHS tape. The Come Fly With Me and Michael Jordan's Playground. I don't know if you guys remember those. They were like the season recap videos that NBA and Sports Illustrated would come out with every year. And I swear, Sports Illustrated stayed in business through my childhood, offering those things for the subscriptions. Man, I'm with it. But seriously, matter of fact, if you're on that topic, if you're a Michael Jordan guy, I may have mentioned it before. One of the greatest things you can ever get yourself. It's called Ultimate Jordan. It's a Blu-ray. It's got like 4 discs in it. It's got the music video of this song that's playing in the background, but it's got all of those videos, those VHSs, all of them. Like I said, Michael Jordan's Playground, Come Fly With Me, The Rare Air. There's 4 or 5 different ones. Those hour-long ones, they're all on there, remastered digitally. It's got a couple of Michael Jordan's greatest games, including against the Cavaliers. But it's got the NBA Classics versions of them. Great stuff. Documentary. It's just so much stuff, man. It's really really good stuff, man. The Ultimate Jordan, it's called. And I stumbled across it. I stumbled across it at a library. I was taking my son there a couple years ago, do some research for something, and I saw that, and I said, man, that was incredible, man. I ended up picking up one for myself. It's pretty cool. Ultimate Jordan, it's called. But anyways, Gatorade celebrating the 50th anniversary. Dude, this song got so catchy that it went from just being a TV commercial to an actual airplay on radio stations in the summer of 1991. That was the year of the Bulls and Jordan. That was the first championship that they won. First championship that Michael Jordan won. And the song got so hot that it became... Remember back in the day, if you remember in the 80s and 90s, they sold singles, cassette singles. It'd be like one song on a single. They put this song out on a single, sold over 100,000 copies at $5 a piece. Man, they made $500,000 off of this thing on a cassette tape, and we're talking 1991 money, man. But anyways, the story behind how they did it is pretty cool because they actually had a completely different. Be Like Mike didn't even exist. It was originally, this was a pretty cool story. I just looked into this morning and I was like, hey, that's interesting because that song is so iconic if you remember it from that time period. Originally, the commercial was going to be nothing like that. It was going to be one of those letter writing spots where you had a young child, and I think he was going to be from one of the like Eastern European countries, Yugoslavia or Ukraine or something like that. Yugoslavia. Yeah, he was going to be writing a letter to Michael Jordan about how he was his favorite player. It was going to be one of those touchy-feely kind of things. And Gatorade just didn't, they didn't hate it, but they didn't love it either. So they went and they got somebody who was a big ad guy at the time, a couple of different guys, and said, hey, before we got to finalize this, why don't you take a shot at this? And they said, we'll give you 72 hours. See if you can come up with anything different. And so the guy, his name is Bernie Pitzel. He sat down and was watching with his kids The Jungle Book, the movie Disney's Jungle Book, heard the song I Want to Be Like You, and he said his wheels started turning. He knew people wanted to be like Mike, and but here's how sometimes the best things happen on accident. They didn't invent that song. They were just going to take the rights to the song from the movie and put Michael Jordan highlights to it. Disney said we wanted $350,000 just for 5 weeks to use the song. So they said, well, forget that, man. We'll make our own song. And they were able to come up with that catchy hook for the Be Like Mike, and boom, the thing took off. And their biggest concern about it was up until that point in time, nobody had ever called him Mike. He was Michael Jordan or Air Jordan, and they weren't sure that people would buy the Mike part of it, but obviously that caught on as well and became a huge thing. Like I said, that was a big deal at that time. I love to this day. I mean, I could listen to that song and take you right back, man. But it's catchy, the whole Be Like Mike. But the anniversary here of this one coming up. Unbelievable. The 50th anniversary of Gatorade tied right in here with the, what would that be, 25th anniversary of the song coming out, man, it's going to be all over this weekend, which is what the whole point of the story was. They've recommissioned the commercial, the original Be Like Mike commercial, and they've bought a ton of airtime during all of the All-Star Weekend stuff coming up. So you're going to hear that song a lot. It'll be stuck in your head by the time we come back on Monday. They're gonna play it like crazy here in the rotation coming up this weekend to celebrate that anniversary, man. Man, I can't believe it's been that long, man. Like, since Michael Jordan won his first championship, it has been 25 years, 24 and a half years or whatever. But that's nuts, because I remember that. That was the beginning, and I was... Anyway, that's my era. Just let you know, time flies. Time flies, brother. Before you know it, I'll be an old fogey going, I remember when I saw... Anyways, I'm not that guy yet. But see, I said anyways like 16 times in the last 5 minutes. So tomorrow you guys can point that out to me like I like to do about myself. Be Like Mike. Anniversary coming up this weekend during the All-Star game. Also, All-Star weekend, George Karl should be announced new head coach of the Sacramento Kings. They may do it by the time today's over. But the plan was to wait out All-Star weekend and then formally make the announcement George Karl's going to return to coaching. It's been a minute since he's been in the NBA. Was it 2013? He was the coach of the year and out of a job in Denver, if you guys remember. And he's been out since then. He's going to step in for the Kings. He's the 6th all-time winningest coach in NBA history. 1,131 wins. It all started where? Right here in Cleveland. And he's going to head to Sacramento and see what he can do with that squad in the second half of the season. Last time he joined a team at the All-Star break, it was Denver in 04-05. They went 32-8 under George Karl in the second half of the season. I don't know the Kings are going to get that kind of bounce back, but we'll see as George Karl comes in, and he's 24 victories away from passing Phil Jackson on the sights of climbing up that coaching list. So he will begin that journey again here in Sacramento. And I saw Stan Van Gundy complaining a bit about that. Not Stan Van Gundy, Jeff Van Gundy, excuse me, complaining a little bit about the way they were treating Ty Corbin, and I get it, but I mean he is the interim coach. I mean, he's got to understand, and I'm sure that he was well aware of the situation that he was going to be replaced. He was holding the ship until they found their guy, and they did find their guy. Tonight, Cavs, Bulls, we previewed it earlier with Eddy Jansen from More Than a Fan Cleveland. 8 p.m. tip-off to accommodate TNT. It's the only game on the NBA slate tonight. Easier said than done. It's the only game on the NBA slate tonight. The Cavs and the Bulls finish it off for the first half for the NBA. Should be a good one. Kevin Love, I just got an update, questionable, going to be a game-time decision whether he plays tonight. As Eddie and I both kind of in the same camp, err on the side of caution. Let the guy have the whole 8-day break here. Well, 5 or 6 before they get back to practice. But give him the week off here. Take tonight off, and then it can run right into the All-Star break. Kevin Love already said he's going out west. He's going to head home for a couple of days. Give him a head start. Give him the night off. Cavs come into this one half a game behind Chicago. Chicago's 33-20. Cavs 33-21. We'll see what happens. Jimmy Butler not going to play tonight. We'll find out if Kevin Love does. Pau Gasol, he's been hot coming into this one. That's going to be a matchup to watch for the Cavs. Chicago has lost 10 of their last 18. Cavaliers, meanwhile, have won 13 of 14 to surge into this place as they head into the half. Should be a lot of fun to watch it tonight. It's on TNT. We'll talk about it tomorrow, guys, as well with Jonathan Knight, the sports writer extraordinaire. Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com. We'll talk some more about Smilin' Jimmy's press conference yesterday. Should be a lot of fun there. Speaking of fun, should be some fun at the Q while the Cavs are playing the Bulls on the road. Their partners in crime, the Monsters, looking to get some revenge from Tuesday night. They've got the Checkers of Charlotte at the Q. So if you're looking for some hockey action tonight, head on down there and check them out. 7 p.m. puck drop, or catch Doug Plagans on the radio doing the play-by-play deal. Monsters tonight, Cavs tonight. A lot to talk about tomorrow as we wrap up the week and Can't wait to do it with you guys. So enjoy your games tonight, whatever you're getting into. Hey, maybe you're not getting into any sports. I doubt that. But come on back here tomorrow, same bad time, same bad channel, live at noon across the Sports Fix Radio Network, and let's talk about it together. Until then, have a great night tonight, Cleveland and beyond. We love you. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the Sports Fix.
Baby, this is Cleveland. It is so much more to us. You can even go to Severn's Hall to see an orchestra. Hey.
We rep our city.
Yeah.
Blue lights separate the crime from the gritty. We're sick fitted. Hood pass over any city that